Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs for today, 31st of March 2022. Welcome all the participants. Hello Netra, Kriti, Hima, Peace Lover, welcome back. Hi Pooja, Amlan, Kim, all of you welcome back to Answer Writing and good effort. We'll discuss all these topics that we have covered in the current affairs today. So let's begin this discussion. What do we have? Some updates. The three updates on electric vehicles, especially the two-wheelers catching fire in India. We'll understand more about electric vehicles quite in details today. Trade in Ruble, Russia's insistence and what are the impacts of it on India, on European countries, on USA. We'll understand in totality what is the issue behind this. And the third one is proportional domestic coal supply. We will understand how the government wants the coal to be used proportionally, in proportion to what the generation is happening, coal supply. We'll understand the reasons. This is in history dedicated to International Transgender Day of Visibility. Feature news on draft India data accessibility and use policy. We had covered this in the updates. I remember in one of the snapshots, we will cover a complete feature news on understanding what this is about. Image of the day on Robo, Roach, a new technology to save human lives in a trap building. Terms for today: Sariska Tiger Reserve, in Memoriam, Montage in the Oscar Awards. Wire News will understand Fleet Card, Indian Air Force with the petroleum marketing companies, and City of Literature being proposed, COE. Editorials for the day: one is on strikes, the bank strikes. Yesterday we understood something and now there's a perspective on it. The second one is on state budget release and the third one is on food response, India's food response. We'll understand this article, a beautiful one. The case study is on conversion of animal carts into people driving e-rickshaws, so by PETA. All right, so let's understand each of them. Hi Sam, good evening Gopal. All right, good evening Ashish, welcome. Let's discuss this and I would want you to relate your answers to what we discussed here, right? That of course you would do. So the first one is an update on electric vehicles catching fire. The catching of fire happening in electric vehicles, this has happened in quick succession in Vellore, in Chennai, around Pune, many cities in just 4 or 5 days, also resulted in loss of lives. And is it that just vehicles catch fire because of electric batteries? No, that's not true. This happens to the best of the best cars, right? So Grand Tours, Richard Hammond, gentleman who is also responsible for TV shows, BBC's auto cars shows, his vehicle also caught fire and it burned for 5 days long, right? Some electronics, some batteries not being transported in the check-in of aircrafts. Not only that, in this vehicle, in this image we see Tesla vehicle also catching fire. What is the reason for catching fire of such electric vehicles? Is it of concern? What is the issue? So let us understand this article. And by the way, this is of common concern to all of us. Many of us possibly will be using electric vehicles in future. I'm also speaking of telephones, right? The phones with lithium-ion battery. What is the shortcoming? We will understand all of this practical application article for today, right? So the update first of all is that these electric vehicles, two-wheeler, Ola electric vehicles and other electric vehicles, a couple of them manufacturers, the problem with the burning of vehicles, right, that it's not something uncommon, but with electric vehicle catches fire, this catches, the eyebrow attention of the people. And electric vehicles at static positions catching fire is still fine, but while they are on move or while they are getting charged, this again is something that raises many questions. Not only that, electric vehicles are catching fire and this fire cannot be doused. It keeps burning until and unless the whole entity is consumed. Imagine that. So for that reason, understanding what is the problem behind this is very much mandated, right? So a quick analysis given by some of the industry experts is that this is only a quick analysis. This is not the complete analysis. It says Indian temperatures were not suitable for electric vehicles and they stress on the importance of strict testing in India. Strict testing and Indian temperatures are too high for those vehicles which have been manufactured somewhere else or parts brought in from somewhere else, for example China, and only assembled in a country like India, right? So this is one update. Now these electric vehicles, when they burn in such a way that they they suddenly catch fire, and there's a lot of smoke around it, and the fire cannot be doused off. It is because the dependence of the fire that happens on these electric vehicles, it is not dependent on the presence of oxygen, etc. They burn primarily because of the cells, the entities, lithium, highly flammable substance, right? Unless and until it is cooled down, they keep burning, right? So electric vehicles are operational even while charging, and dramatic burns with high flames and fumes of smoke. This is a feature that happens while these electric vehicles start to burn, right? And this is where Mumbai fire tender service, they have said that they will need, see, after anything burns, no, there is a time for observation. Time for observation of that entity which has burned, they have increased for 48 to 72 hours for electric vehicles burning. They've also said they need bigger vehicles, bigger fire tenders than before. They would need bigger fire tenders so that, immense amount of water is given on the electric vehicle batteries. It is because the batteries get heated to such an extent that cooling down involves humongous amount of water. So many of us who thought of, while we were small, I remember many of us would say, policeman banunga, right? मेरे को fire tender, fire extinguisher driver बनना है, right? We quite fascinated out of this. So Amlan, here's the opportunity, driving Scania and Volvo fire tenders. What do you say? Bigger fire tenders. Now, this is not only an Indian feature, as I mentioned, this is happening around the world, right? So in America, the Tesla cars catching fire. So, but even now, there is no global standard operating procedure, right? Now, some countries in Europe, for example, Netherlands, have established specialized devices. These trucks carrying a complete cuboid shape container. And this container is the place where the cars can be dropped in if they're burning, because they'd keep burning all the time, right? For days and days, they'd be put inside this, and then from the, all the corners, there would be water sprinkled in this, and the car would, eventually get completely immersed in it. This is the point. So, but then can India afford this right now? We don't know. But then, yes, if you want to become a fire tender, driver, then of course, what a beautiful vehicle it is, right? So, getting back, requirement in India will be a bigger arsenal of fire tenders. This is one, or letting the fire burn completely. It will take away the whole vehicle. But then, the problem with immersing a vehicle inside the water is also one solution, inside the local body water bodies. But then it also releases chlorine gas, and this is not very good for environment. So therefore, immersing the vehicles inside any water body is not good unless and until it is a closed container like this, right? These are chemically induced fires. Therefore, extinguishing them is a very, very big challenge, right? So this is one update regarding this. Let us get into some depths of this, right? Now, see, you would be very sad to know that this is Felicity Ace. This is one of the container ships carrying around 4,000 cars. Just a month back, the whole ship, it got drowned because of fire. Fire for what? Again, you see the white fumes. Plummeting fumes. This is because of the cars inside this container. It was owned by Volkswagen. Volkswagen company owns, it's one of the largest car manufacturers in the whole world, Volkswagen. And under it has, various models of cars operating, right? For example, Porsche, Volkswagen itself, right? And many other models, right? I wonder it is not Ferrari, but then many other exclusive models of cars, and they all got burnt inside. Some of them got burnt because of electric vehicle batteries, and then rest of them, all of it got drowned. It was moving from Germany to USA, and 4,000 cars inside this all got drowned, right? So let us understand what is the issue and what is the solution for a thing like this. Should it cause a concern in India and market for electric vehicles in future? We'll understand this. Hi Tiyasha, good evening. Oh, Amlan, it is too quick to give a conclusion if you've changed your thoughts. Just hold on. We'll understand what are the issues and can they be sorted or not, right? So it says, even when NT, I picked up some excerpts from various articles to make you understand the main points about it. Even when empty, cells contain small amount of charge, and together many cells, they make up a battery, right? So if you see a battery here, right, this is the lithium ion battery. There would be many cells inside this, right? And each of them combined would make a battery. and each of them, even when empty, even when they do not have any power in them, even then there is small amount of minute amount of charge, and the charge keeps moving because of connections between positive and negative electrodes. And when this happens, very minimal amount of energy gets generated. But then if you look at the whole battery, and this minimal amount of energy generated, it turns into heat, expendable heat, right? But then if this happens in the whole battery, then the effective heat generated will be quite high. This heat is called as thermal runaway. This heat generated, the dissipating heat generated, is called as thermal runaway, and this is unrequired for. In fact, using some positive positive feedbacks, this heat can also be reduced. But if it cannot be reduced, then that battery is, अब वही होगा जो मंजूर खुदा होगा, right? Positive feedback loops keep the temperatures from rising in single cell, but in the worst case scenario, the increased pressure from higher temperature of each cell leads to cell splitting open and rapidly heating the surrounding cells. And once all the cells get heated, then the whole battery will burn. So this is called as thermal runaway, which is something which can be avoided through feedback loops, but does not happen, the whole battery runs, right? And then toxic vapor clouds develop, and then there is a risk of burning, deflagration, right? When the heat is so much that the entity starts to burn, right? This is the issue. So what we need is better battery management system. What is the meaning of battery management? We need battery coolants. We need spacing in the cells designed such, I will explain this to you, designed such that the battery does not become superheated, right? So here are some of the issues and solutions. When you look at battery technologies, when you look at battery technologies, if you remember, right, 20 years back when I was small, right now you guys are also small, I am also small, but then when we were very small, around 20 years back, we would have emergency lights at our homes, not inverters, but emergency lights at our homes, and they would run on these, what are these batteries called as? So this is nickel cadmium, this is lithium ion, and the older ones were called as, can anybody tell me the name of these kind of batteries? They would be need for maintenance of these batteries. We would need distilled water to be put in these batteries, and this was a high maintenance battery. Please name this battery, right? So this was a high maintenance battery required, and then came these nickel cadmium batteries, smaller batteries, right? And then came even smaller and more compact batteries called as the lithium ion batteries, right? All being used in our phones, right? Even electric vehicles. High density batteries, storage is good, recharging capacity is good, maintenance is zero in nickel cadmium and lithium ion. Oh yeah, some liquid was put, but what is the name? Why do I forget this? Anybody remember? Please tell us. All right. So now looking at these kind of batteries, the developed batteries which have formed right now, two of them are the nickel cadmium and the other one is the lithium ion batteries. See, the lithium ion battery, here the space efficiency is higher. In a very small space, we see a battery which can power the whole system for hours and hours, right? 6000 mAh. My phone has got 6000 mAh battery. 6000 mAh means it provides 6000 milliampere for 1 hour. 6000 milliampere for 1 hour before it gets discharged. This is the battery power. Battery power is high, right? But then the space utilization is also high. But then the cooling cycle, the cooling efficiency of the battery is not high. It is higher in these kind of batteries, cylindrical batteries. It is not as high in these batteries. This is one of the causes of overheating of the batteries. So overheating or while being charged. While we charge, is it not that sometimes we use high power chargers, the one which are not administered or given in that particular charging entity? Absolutely. And that is what is not required. It results into extra heating of the lithium ion battery, and because of this extra heating, all the cells combined, it results into dissipation of energy, results into something called as deflagration, results into thermal runaway, which usually happens. But then all of these entities, battery management not happening properly, it leads to these problems, and then the battery explodes, right? And not only that, there have been researches which are now saying that because of competition, lot of entities, lot of companies have come up booming and mushrooming. They started to manufacture these electric vehicles, battery storage, and there is no quality check, there is no quality assessment. They are just manufacturing it, we are importing it. Even if in the name of Make in India, we could be importing and assembling these entities in the country. If Chennai has an Ola electric factory, that's fine, but then these vehicles are only catching fire, no? And so we do not have proper assessment and checks. This is not me speaking, this is the industry speaking. Driven by competition and pressures of meeting funding targets, rushing their EV development and potentially risking and taking shortcuts, right? So what we need is BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, maintaining minimum level of standard. And despite having declared a minimum standard, it is not being actually administered. So this is another issue, right? So if you remember, we need RDOs, no? RDOs under BIS, organizations which can rate, which can have quality assessment and rate the product which has been created, right? So we need that in India, right? The space to energy ratio, yes, this is what I was speaking. The space to energy ratio in these lithium ion batteries, this is very good because it takes lesser space in laptops, in phones, in cars. But then what about its thermal management? Its thermal management is not as strong, right, in these shapes. Heat dissipation, that also happens. Along with that, what we need, as I mentioned, the battery management system. In conventional petroleum powered vehicles, do we not see the coolant system, coolant regulation, right? Similarly, we need cell temperature balance, voltage and ventilation in battery management systems also. There needs to be a way in which the phone can dissipate energy, right? Radiate energy, dissipate energy through conduction, convection, whatever be the means. But this is not being provided as of now. Now, I remember some of the advanced systems. For example, our phones only have a system. I would keep the phone in my vehicle and then navigate to places. It would not run two apps. It would not run Google Maps along with YouTube for me if the phone is superheated. So the phone gets superheated because of the sun, the sun radiations, and then it only runs one app. There are times when the phones stop to charge the battery of the phones just because it gets superheated. So these kind of software technologies are also required, right? So that the battery does not get overheated, right? Avoid fast chargers. See, space to energy ratio, competition, right? Overheating or being charged. Then battery management system, ventilation, temperature cell. See, short circuit, faulty charging, cell quality, battery management systems, accidental damage, right? All these are the things which are preventive in nature and however not taken care of right now. That is why resulting in many battery issues here, right? Accidental damage, you can't be penetrating, right? There's a penetration test in the batteries, right? Let me show this to you. Right, this is called as nail penetration test. If we put excessive pressure on the battery, it will burst again. So these kind of tests are also adopted to see what is the withstanding capacity of the batteries. See, it has happened to ships, it has happened to vehicles, personal vehicles, it has happened to two-wheelers, it has happened to sports cars. Imagine this. All right, right? Aircrafts, lithium. Now see, in aircrafts, we can take we can take our phones, we can take all these laptops, entities and battery chargers with ourselves in the cabin as cabin luggage, but we cannot put it in check-in. Why now? Why not? Why now is it like this? Why cannot we take it in our check-in but can take it as a carry-on? The reason is this, that while we go up in the atmosphere, up maybe 10-12 kilometers above the mean sea level, that is the place where the pressure is less. The pressure is duly maintained in the cabin in which we are sitting. But then, jo dicky hota hai iska, the check-in, there the pressure might not be as much. And when the pressure outside is less, pressure inside is far more. Inside this, see, the cells are tightly packed. The pressure is quite a lot. It needs a balance of pressure from outside. It might want to burst out, and that is the reason that and then catch flames. So this is one of the reasons because of which the battery needs to be taken on board with the person, right? Difference in pressures and bursting of the battery, right? This is one of the reasons. So this is a quick update here. And what is the battery standard that is required? Okay, here is it. So what is required? Some solutions required here are BIS standard norms for the battery to be followed, right? For example, low speed two-wheeler vehicles, their standard is not being checked only in India, right? The little or no manufacturing knowledge, and people are just assembling the Chinese kits together. This is part of reports, right? We need intensive cooling systems, just like we have the coolant system in the petroleum vehicles, and strict penalty should be imposed on the original equipment manufacturers. Apart from that, let me just quickly mention to you that there are four important things that are required for any good battery to exist. One is space to energy ratio. Having said that, the space to energy ratio should be good, right? The space taken should be less, the energy provided should be high. Along with that, the thermal management also must happen, right? Both of them are important. Along with this, the charging cycle should be such that it should quickly recharge the battery. Bulk energy, it should be able to provide bulk energy at once. अब वो बहुत थोड़ा milliamperes में it provides energy, car won't be able to move. And the fourth is self discharge time. The discharge time, if the battery is kept for a while, it should be high. The time in which it gets discharged, it should be high. It should not be low. Apart from that, see, lithium burns very fast. It burns very fast, very inflammable. And then it is also one of the lightest material to be found. So it could be lightweight, right? This is one good quality. High energy density. The energy contained in small volumes should be high, right? The technology maintenance should be less. So these are the important ways in which you can rate a battery availability in the market. All right, this is what we have updated. I have gone beyond EVs catching fire, explaining you a lot of entities about this. How do these batteries work, right? Thermal runaway is the keyword for you here, and positive feedback loop, which can help the battery handle itself, battery management system. So understand, this is an issue which is coming up and it will keep coming up. So should you take an electric vehicle or not? Yes, why not? Probably they are standardized vehicles, right? See, right now the electric vehicle technology is able to manufacture cars which can say run 400 kilometers with one charge. What we 400 may from where to where will you be able to go? You'll be able to go from Delhi to Jaipur, right? But what about Delhi to Jammu? Where will you charge your vehicle? We don't know. So right now, this is where vehicles have started to experiment, and then one vehicle has been developed. 800 kilometers is the maximum it can travel, but then that vehicle is going to cost you just a couple of crores, more than a couple of crores. I think 5-6 crores. So right now, the standard vehicles 300 kilometers is ideal. So this is the situation. So, but then regarding the batteries catching fire, they must be manufactured in India, right? Or original equipment manufacturer must duly check the standardization of the battery. BIS must counter check all this. There must be standard operating procedures for the batteries being purchased in India. This is the solution. All right. Okay. Lead acid battery. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Netra Hima. Ventilation in laptops also. Laptops do have some ventilation, but what about bichara cell phones, right? Hi, freedom fighter. Welcome. We all are fighting for some level of the freedom, right? Freedom from examination, freedom from time constraints, right? Freedom from so many things. Welcome to you as well. Taxi also. Yes. Many of the taxi vehicles are using battery vehicles. Absolutely. Okay, so अब ये समझ में आ गया topic. Let's move ahead to the next one, right? Cooling system, especially for gaming laptops and mobile phones. Absolutely, gaming laptops, they need a lot of energy. So when you speak of gaming laptops, you could go on to speak about the servers and the data management systems. All right. So this is a very important issue. Do not skip this. The issues in battery vehicles. I took a lot of time to explain this, but then India is providing subsidies, then it must get good services. So look at the issues, Chinese manufactured, right? Load testing, and just market all booming around electric vehicles. These are the issues. Not just these. Point out all the issues mentioned, and then what are the technicalities of a good battery, technicalities of these batteries that are not operating well, and what are the solutions or alternatives available. I spoke about the advanced countries. देखो दोस्तों, यूज करना अच्छे से इंफॉर्मेशन, राइट? इट विल नॉट कम अगेन एंड अगेन with the same intensity. All right. The second update is on trade in ruble. Oh, so Russia again. Russia has said that we would like to trade. We want to trade in rubles with those adversaries we are trading with, right? Non-conformist countries that we are trading in. Mr. Putin has himself said, I would like to read that sentence. I have decided to implement a set of measures to transfer payments for our gas supplies to unfriendly nations into Russian rubles. Who are the unfriendly nations? He's speaking of European countries. See, European imports, gases import, as much as 40% of European gases import is from Russian economy. The rest from Middle East, America, otherwise. America is able to provide some level of supplement. So, but then out of the total entity required, I think out of 40% required, I was reading, only 4% is being supplied by Russia, by USA. The rest of it again by Russia itself. So, why hai ki, they have come back to square one. We have to import from Russia itself, and SWIFT transactions for these transactions have not been cancelled. See the duality of the economies. They are not okay with the Ukraine getting attacked, but then they are indirectly funding Russian weapons only, no? When they are importing oil. See, so this is the dichotomy between European economies and Russia. Russia said we want to trade in rubles only. So here comes the background to it, right? Explaining you a little in background. These are the world currencies which are being traded, which are being maximum traded around the whole world. Sabse zyada currency which is the one in circulation. So the maximum in circulation, around 50%, is US dollars. $44. The 44% is dollars, and then comes euro. 16% is euro. After that is Japanese yen, and then is Great Britain pound, Australian dollars, Canadian dollars. Then is Swiss franc. CHF is Swiss franc. After that we move to Chinese renminbi, yuan, and then Hong Kong dollar, New Zealand dollar, and other currencies 10%. See, maximum trade internationally is happening in US dollars and European currency, right? European currency, right? And then pounds. So imagine replacing this US dollars. This is what they want. And why do they want it? Let's understand that also. See, American dollar is popular because of these three reasons. World's largest economy, America. You know that. Here is the proof. World's largest economy. The world GDP proportion of USA is 25%. 25% of every entity created in the world is American. And then 16% is Chinese. 3% is Indian. 3% is Indian. All right. Japanese is 6%. So why not should they circulate their dollars? And ये तो अभी है ना. This is the 21st century we are speaking of, when China is rising, when India is rising, and Asian economies are rising. In the last century, it was America which was ruling. The 20th century belonged to New York. The 19th century belonged to London, and 21st century belongs to possibly Shanghai, Beijing, and New Delhi and Mumbai. Possibly, possibly for Indian countries, provided you and I do well. Provided. Right? Otherwise, we'll be like, mendak in kuwa, mendak in a well. So, as I mentioned, the world economy, America is far ahead. So, the world's largest economy and powerhouse in international trade, America. This is one reason why American currency is only the leading one. The world decided to keep American dollar as prime reserve currency. It was in Bretton Woods declarations that American dollars would be used as reserve currency along with gold, right? So currency reserve 63% is through American dollars. And imagine Russia also had quite a bit of reserve currency with itself, and all the American dollars have been made immovable because America is not happy with it, right? So see, for example, if we have $600 billion of foreign exchange reserves, $600 billion, America at any moment, if it is not happy with us, it can say, we are not considering this legal tender if India is trading in it, right? So this is what it has done with Russia. Russia not happy. It says, we have earned this much, so much through tourism, through sales of petroleum, and what are you doing to us? We are not happy. So we will trade in rubles from now on. We want the increase of payments in rubles. We will trade with friendly nations only, right? We'll trade with China, we'll trade with India, we'll trade with Iran, every other country. But then we don't want dollars with us. We don't want euros with us. All right. The third one is commodities prices are are usually traded in and put in dollars only. Gold prices, what is the price per dollar, per gram, per ounce, and then oil and copper, Brent crude, all of this are traded in dollar currency only in the international market. So what else about US economy is that in 1944, Bretton Woods Agreement allowed other countries to back their currencies with dollars rather than gold. I remember having a discussion with you people on gold and diamond. See, it brings back this discussion again, that the currencies previously were backed by gold, not with diamond. Diamond's marketing started only in the 20th century with the common people. It was owned, Kohinoor and all, everything accepted, everything was good, and it was glittering. I agree, but then all that glitters is not gold. Gold has been the the most important reserve since time immemorial, and diamond also getting created in industrial processes, we know that as well. So gold has always been considered as an important entity, but then for reserves, even American dollars was accepted. It was a part of Bretton Woods Agreement, dollars only. So that is the reason that dollars got more significance, right? And after that, slowly and steadily, there was a dynamic market, dynamic international market, dynamic currency exchange, because of which the dollars got more significance with time, because America was the leader in world market, right? Okay, so the dollar strength is very high. This is what we know. See, most 40% of world's debt is issued in dollars. Countries like China and Russia are currently calling for one world currency which is for the whole world. Special drawing rights is one currency, but then it also composes of various other components. For example, Russian the 5-6 economies have got a proportion in the SDRs. If you see, most important currency in international trade and finance, this is present by a Finnish bank. It says, if world keeps foreign exchange reserves, more than 60% of foreign exchange reserves is in dollars, and around 20% is in euros. So 80% of foreign exchange is in dollar and Europe only, euro. And then if you look at international debt and international trade, again 60% plus international trade transactions in dollars. So when I have given you enough proof how American dollars and European market, they are the ruling ones. Why 19th century belonged to Europe is because that was the time when they were not warring. They were industrial economies, there was imperialism, there was a lot of commercialization happening in Europe, and industrialization as well, right? Industrial revolution. But then when they started fighting wars in the 20th century, First World War, Second World War, hardly anything. A little bit was fought in USA, but hardly anything was fought in USA. USA was still exporting weapons, exporting food, exporting metal, commodities, all of it, industrial goods, all of it to Europe, and that is why its economy rose in the 20th century. They also have a sizable population, around 35-40 crore of people. So that is the reason that USA grew substantially. Now, if you see, what happened is when America and European countries imposed sanctions on Russia, Russia could not trade with them anymore on many goods. For example, imposing trading sanctions, that means Russia cannot export weapons, its goods, its supplies, wheat, anything to around the whole world. Then there would be other level of sanctions, for example, diplomatic sanctions, and then people would not be able to move into those countries. Not only that, there was a third level of sanction which was financial in nature. Swift transactions were to be imposed, Swift transaction bans were to be imposed. What this led to was shortage of dollars in Russia, shortage of dollars, and increase in the presence of rubles. So what was standard at around 65 rubles per a dollar, it shot up to around 127 is what is mentioned here, but it shot up to 140 rubles would be equivalent to $1 just because of the times of war, when there was a shortage of American dollars, and then the whole world was trading in dollars. So importing for a country like Russia would have become so expensive. Everything would have costed more than 2 times, 65 to 140. Imagine this. This is the depreciation that we are speaking of. And although exporting would become easy for Russia, exporting because depreciated currency, but sanctions are imposed. So Russia says, we are not dealing with this here. Why do you want to deal with this? Let's deal with our currency only. And our currency, along with Chinese renminbi, along with other allied partners, this is how we'll deal with it, right? So I hope it's clear to you now, right? In fact, I did check about the exchange rate between both the countries since 2003. So when you look at this image from 2003, If you look at the exchange rate from 2003, this was pegged at 29 rubles for $1 in 2003, and slowly and steadily, whenever there were more sanctions, 2014, see, there is a sudden escalation here. I hope you are able to see this, right? See, sudden escalation after 2014, and then again a huge spike in 2022 because of the war. So these are the issues because of which Russia says, bhai, the move to accept payments only in rubles has been done to increase the demand for rubles in international market. अब दिखाएंगे, अपुनी भगवान है type, right? Russian central bank's foreign currency assets worth $630 billion were frozen. Oh, so they will get infuriated, na? They are also a tiger nation, no? They are also tiger range country, bhai. ऐसे कम थोड़ी होगा, right? I don't know if you people have seen the movie Rambo, but John Rambo goes to Russia also to fight battles, right? This was, see, movies also were designed in a way that they would reflect what is happening in the society. So those 1970s, 80s and 90s, times of Cold War, and you would see how American movies are made in a way to show that Russians are niche hai thoda, aisa, right? Okay, European firms will, this is the most important part, European firms will now have to find intermediaries, those that accept dollars and euros, right? They will have to find intermediaries because European countries never collected rubles. So they will have to find intermediaries that accept dollars or euros and then give them Russian rubles, right? So that when Europe has rubles, then only Russia will give them fuel, oil, petroleum, gases, right? So who is the country? One country is there. You people know it. Yeah, because I have shown this to you how Russia-China trade has increased since 2014, increased dramatically since 2014. And when China, when they are able to trade in rubles with China, what will they give? They'll give them euros or they will give them dollars, right? Chinese currency also will become an important currency. This will lead to de-dollarization. That is the word, de-dollarization around the whole world. Chinese currency will gain significance, rubles will gain significance. So this is what is possibly going to happen. Now, this was not the original pact between Russia and Europe. So Europe is definitely hurt by this fact that, Arey bhai, you were trading with us and we were to trade in dollars. But then Russia says, oh, everything has changed. We have changed the terms and conditions because we are who we are, right? I am Putin. Who are you? Instead of talking about oil prices in dollars per barrel, the price quoted would be in terms of yuan, right? The West sees this move by Russia as a breach of contract. And slowly and steadily, European countries have started to see how they can diversify the product base. Gas ke jagah they start importing coal from somewhere else. Instead of gas, petroleum from somewhere else. And they've also started to diversify their sources, right? So this is what is something that they have started to do. India has started to import more of its energy requirements from Russia lately. But then, as you people also mentioned, that there has to be balance maintained. But then right now, the news is that India has started to import more from Russia. That's true. See, who supplies Europe's oil? Rosneft. And this second company, Rosneft is the Russia's, just like we have Roscosmos, state-owned agency. Rosneft is a state-owned agency, and 20% of petrol from them only, petroleum. And then rest from another 15% from another Russian company itself. Imagine. And then we have Norway, Saudi, USA, Libya, all of them. And this is only petrol, oil supplies. There's not gas. Russia, European countries also depend on gas, no? So imagine that. That is the situation there, right? Teko, I've explained this one also in quite a few ways, right? Questions, most welcome. Questions are the way we generate and understand what's happening around the world. So this is where we have explained a little about WTI, West Texas Intermediary, or the Brent crude. All those are rated in dollars itself. But Russia says now apan lo karenge start trade, right? Ruble direct trade, right? If you remember, Iran had also requested India to start trading in the regional currency, rupees also, right? Because Iran was going through sanctions. India did trade all this, but in Iran at one point was India's second largest petroleum exporter, India's, right? They would import the second largest to India after, I think, Iraq. But then look at this position right now, it has only dropped because of American sanctions on Iran. But look at the diplomatic stand of India right now. India is importing more from Russia. So look at the liberty India has got in the open market right now. India is not getting arm twisted by American and European moves. Okay. Hi Vivek. Sylvester Stallone. Yes. Sylvester Stallone, another beautiful story of his life. We'll discuss that sometime. Sylvester Stallone and your Mr. Terminator, both of them. Pooja says, sir, I think China is an ally of USA. See, no permanent allies, permanent interests. Permanent interests and will align with the ally depending on the kind of alignment we have with them, right? So Kim says, as per the recent news, Russia will continue accepting euro from European nations. These dynamics is fine. See, have they been taking in euros? No. Dollar has been the accepted currency around the world. I showed that to you. The most accepted currency and trading entity is in dollars. WTI crude, dollars. Northern the WTI crude oil in Texas and the North Sea Brent crude, both of them calculated in dollars, right? So most of the trading happens in dollars. Fine, I accept that they are accepting the payments in euros, but what do you think should be? Russia should get subjugated by European countries or America? No, in times to come they will enforce ruble, they will help. So anyhow, even if it is not practical, then even then you should understand the ramifications of and the impacts of trading in the regional currencies, right? Overall good for diversification of the world market. All right. Okay, let me look at the comments here. Sir, can we use due to climate change, temperature increase cause more burning of electric vehicles, which is also a greenhouse gas into atmosphere and develop feedback loop? This is too early to say. There are only few vehicles which are getting damaged like this, so there is no, Gopal, there is itna abhi urgency is not that level that every other vehicle is getting burned. It is only few cases right now, but yes, you can mention that due to climate change there is a general temperature rise, and see, majorly when these entities are created, batteries are created in China, that is a Laurentian type and China type climate, no, and they are in temperate areas, they're not in tropical areas. Tropical areas, the temperature is different, the requirement is different, and the technology that we are using possibly is not the one that could be the most optimal for India, right? So we need better technology, we need a quality check, quality assessment, we need a standard operating procedure when these things happen. So I think that what you're saying, Gopal, will apply maybe in future if we do not amend our ways, but right now it is a little early to say that this feedback loop is the cause. Feedback loops are caused in many places. For example, wildfires, that is their climate temperature rise, and that cause inducing fire in wildlife areas, and that instigating global warming, greenhouse gases, again climate change. So that is the best example to use. Mir payment system instead of SWIFT, good reminder, thank you. Even Iran is planning to shift completely towards Mir payment. See, all of them are starting to get allied. USA is too clever, absolutely true. What else? Sir, you're too good in international. Okay, thank you. +10. Thoda interesting hai, but let's get to domestic as well. Domestic. Thank you. I feel flabbergasted, meaning overwhelmed, unspeakable. The third update is on proportional domestic coal supply. So what is this about? See, coal supply is happening in the country through a channel. So coal generation happens at places and then it is supplied through coal rakes, right? It is collected at a place and then there are coal rakes. These are, individual bogies. They go to places where the coal has to be used. They can be used at two places. One is those industries which have captive coal mines. Captive. Many of them. Adani has got captive coal mines. Reliance has got captive coal mines. Nalco, Balco, all these aluminium manufacturing, refining industries also have got captive coal mines. Why? Because they need a lot of energy for purification of the entities, right? So captive coal mines are one where they can be used, the coal that has been excavated, created, which has been mined, and the other that can be used is at other coal power plants. For example, NTPC. And NTPC is not the only entity. Many state power producing plants are also there, which are able to generate power. But then they always face shortage. India's coal shortage was not only an impact of the global coal shortage or fuel shortage. It was also artificially created, not purposefully, but it was artificially created when it was found. We have discussed this issue. The issue is that, see, the companies do not keep sufficient coal power as a backup. They do not keep. They wait for the best time when the coal prices are low, and that is when they want to keep a backup. The coal prices every time they shoot up during the times of rainy season because of filling of all the coal seams, coal beds because of rain. So they look for a time, best time, opportune time when the coal prices are low, right? They would not keep a backup, and every time the CIL would keep telling them, "Bhai, lay low." They would not do this. So government has taken a due note of this also. Along with that, there's also supply ahead of it. Now these are power producing companies. They are power distributing companies, and remember that power producers or generators, power distributors, and then there are companies which power transmitters, power grid, power transmitters. Right. So distributors are always in loss. Almost 1 lakh crore rupees of loss overall right now. So when they are in so much of loss, will they be able to pay the power producers? No. When the power producers don't have sufficient money and they are looking for the best time to look for the cheapest coal, the same quality coal at the cheapest amount, they would not even be able to pay this amount to the coal producers. Coal India Limited, state-owned company owning most of the coal resources in the country. So you can see there is a complete supply chain bottleneck of rupee in the market. Strategizing something, right? Power generating companies or power distribution companies in loss, and the whole ecosystem in problem. Therefore, the government has said we will be distributing coal only in proportion to the coal that has been generated. Okay? We will be distributing coal to all the coal power stations only in the proportion it is being generated. You can't make exclusive claims for yourself, right? Also, we will find those companies which are not paying for the electricity used if in due time. We'll find those companies. There will be due penalty also. Also, another regulation introduced is that if these coal rakes are coming to a coal power plant and the coal power plant is too slow to take out the coal from here, then the coal will not be supplied here. Coal will not be supplied. Coal will be supplied to those places which are in higher demand, higher requirement, and they are maintaining a good return time, right? Turnaround time. So this is the update from the third update, right? As per the ministry, domestic coal supply will be made proportional to the coal received from Coal India, Singareni Collieries Companies Limited. All right. Adequate supply of coal and enhanced domestic supply. Allotment to power plants to be maximized. Lesser number of rakes to those companies which are, which take a lot of time to unload. Central Electricity Authority will see the, unloading time. They will also see how much finances are being delayed, bills to be paid in due time, if not, fines to be raised. Power purchase agreement. These are the agreements in which power has to be purchased, right, in long term power purchase agreements, and then money has to be paid. So these agreements have to be duly maintained. So this is the update here. Mandatory to maintain adequate fuel stock. See, not maintaining adequate fuel stock or not giving availability on pretext such as high price of imported coal will be punishable. Okay. Seen. So coal shortage was not just international coal prices and Russia and China and clean energy. It is also created in India, right? Supply chain bottlenecks. Okay. I also want to show you a small image of the power generation in India. Power generation, electricity generation in India right now, 50% plus is through coal. And what is envisaged by the year 2030 is 30% with coal. 30% with coal. See, reduction from coal, and then we are increasing the solar from 8% right now to 36%. So dekh lo, can you expect a question from UPSC around this? Why not? We are expecting wind power to increase from 10% to 70%. Why not should they ask questions more towards this? Abhi, if you check your last 10 years question paper, you would see that there are more questions on conventional and non-conventional. And right now, and in times to come, they should ask more questions related to complete supply chain of solar and windmills, wind farms, solar panels. That is why in news, that is why we keep discussing it. I remember there was a time when climate change was too much in news, right? So many reports and COP. So we discussed a lot of climate change. I remember there was a time when the budget was in news just 2 months back. We discussed everything in totality. Now, when these issues are cropping, Russia was in news, we discussed that in totality, right? So we will keep changing according to the tailwind, right? There's something called as tailwind. There's something called as headwind. This is good, key term, just like snowball effect. You could use, that's a good word to use, snowball effect, right? Similarly, tailwind is the wind which provides us energy in our own direction, movement in our own direction. If you're moving right this way, tailwind, it will help me move ahead. Headwind, wind which I am facing at my head. So this is moving against the direction, and this is moving with the direction, which means I am getting some energy, extra energy from what is happening around. So this is how current affairs is like. We move towards what is happening, in flow of what is happening, not against what is happening, right? Okay, moving ahead. This day in history, International Transgenders Day of Visibility, 31st March 2009, first time celebrated to appreciate the trans people and raise awareness about their struggles. All right. Okay. Feature news on Draft India Data Accessibility and Use Policy 2022. We will understand this policy in totality, and this was lately released, but we discussed only an update. We will understand this in totality in this feature news today. All right, moving ahead to what are the other news items here. Robo Roach, you see this entity? This entity has been created by scientists, and this has got some ways in which it emulates and understands the human movement at some place. So it will understand the carbon dioxide release at a place, if movement is happening at a particular place in a building which has collapsed. It will try to help understand if there is human life, and then accordingly we will be able to save that life in that particular place, right? So it has sensors. This is called as, just like a cockroach, it is called as a Robo Roach, right? Body heat, movement, and carbon dioxide levels. So good one. Okay, in a collapsed building. Sariska Tiger Reserve. Sariska Tiger Reserve in Rajasthan, which is the district? Alwar, absolutely close to Gurugram district, and it is known because this is where we have a tiger reserve right now. Earlier it was a national park and tiger reserve, both of it. Now what was in news lately was that there was a fire which sprang up, and it kept burning for 72 hours. Although there were notifications that the fire, even when it was at a very small scale, it was notified through sensing through satellites, but then it could not be controlled. It made an area of more than 10 square kilometer burn. 10 square kilometer means 5 square kilometer in length and 2 square kilometer in 2 kilometers in width. This is the area that burned for 3 days, and slowly and steadily it diminished, and not only diminished by itself, but have a look at this image. This is how helicopters were put to diminish the fire. See, the container containing the water, it's just like a parachute, and then it was released, and this is how an effort was made to evade the kind of fire that was here. Now, Sariska has not seen a fire for a lot of time. There is a reason for it. See, these are the dryness of the leaves and the forest is not as much as what it is in the temperate areas, the forested areas of Himalayas. In Himalayas, northeast, these are times when we would start seeing enough forest fires. And yes, Gopal, this is where you should use the example of feedback loops, right? So in Sariska, the fire still did not spread as much as it could. Tigers are safe, animals are safe. This is what the forest authority says. It is because of this reason. What probably saved Sariska was the fact that fire began on hilly slopes and could only move laterally or upward in strip. The hilly slopes, when fire moves in a hilly slope, it usually comes down rolling. It comes down rolling in a hilly slope in the highland areas. Why? Because in the lower altitude also you would find more trees, you would find more life, and this is why fire would spread in the lower areas. This is one reason that takes more toll of fire, of burning fire in the hilly areas, mountainous areas, because fire comes down rolling, where burning logs roll down the slope. But here, and also fire in a dry deciduous forest rarely moves down, since there is no heavy burning mass that can slide down, right? So dry deciduous forest, they rarely move down because they don't find more biomass there, right? But unlike valleys of Sariska, which are greener with high moisture content, Sariska could be greener as compared to other drier places. It is also largely a dry place, right? Deciduous. But then these are greener with high moisture. The hilly slopes are drier, so those hilly slopes burn more. And when they burn more, they roll down, and in rolling down, they cause more fire around the other places. So this is the reason that Sariska does not see as many fires as other places around do. All right. So wildlife sanctuary, and then tiger reserve, a national park. All right. Animals are safe. This is what they say. In Memoriam, Montage Oscar Awards. What is a montage? A small video clip, or video clip created with photos, images of people. And people are not happy in India because two important people related to film industry, Lata Mangeshkar and Dilip Kumar, who passed away in the last year, in the complete last year, their images were not put in the montage, right? But what reminds me of the global attention that was brought to Will Smith's slapping of the host here, right? So a very witty remark. There can be 100 people in a room and 99 won't slap, but one will. Right? So a lot of hype to this news, but then such disregard to Indian cinema. That's it. That's why news. And which is the picture who won the Oscar Best Picture Award? Who was the best actor? Best actor was Will Smith himself. Minutes after he slapped this gentleman on the stage, and people thought it was dramatized, but then they understood later that it was happening accidental. And why would he slap? Because the gentleman, he commented on his wife's condition, a physical condition in which she would lose hair. There was some joke, but the joke was not intentional. Will Smith has got a troubled childhood and he felt it very personally. He didn't like that. So sudden remark. Will Smith has also apologized, but then the Oscar committee has raised voice against this, and there will be further ramifications on Will Smith. Okay, so not a part of so much of news, but then some masala here and there you should know a little. Whenever I swipe across newspapers, I would sometimes also go to Hindustan Times HT City and know about film stars, who's doing what. Fleet card, fuel on the move. What is it? See, the military vehicles do not get petrol or diesel from the common petrol pumps. They have a separate petrol and diesel pump for themselves, only maintained for themselves. But does it not make the force a little more inefficient? Meaning there are more staff employed. See, when you have, remember the maker, checker, reviewer model? That applies everywhere, every industry. So the person who is giving the service is the maker. So petrol pump owned by Army, Navy, Air Force, each of them would be the maker. There would be somebody who will be checking that the petrol provided is real, the quality is good. Not only that, the people who are taking petrol for vehicles, they are utilizing it for the right purpose. So checker, another institution, and complete reviewer of the whole system, right? Audit of the same, right? So defense audits. If you get through civil services, there's a special civil services officer cadre for defense audits. They will be auditing this account also. Look at this enlarged workforce just because you want to put vehicle in, petrol in or diesel in military vehicles. So this is a complete wastage of resources. This was recommended that we must have the better teeth to tail ratio. Teeth, the fighting force to tail ratio. Tail, not lot of use, right? Tail in general is used for balancing, but then tail has been disregarded here in the phrase. Teeth to tail ratio, to make it better, we should remove these kind of services and we should be standardizing these services from the standard agencies. So right now, Indian Air Force has had a pact with IOCL, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, and they say that with the help of fleet card, fuel on the move, they can take fuel from anywhere. So Air Force, I'm not saying you land a Sukhoi 30 at a petrol pump, right, for air turbine fuel. Not that, but then aircraft, Indian Air Force can procure the petroleum from various agencies. That's what, with the help of fleet card, right? So better teeth to tail ratio would be maintained. The checker, mover and all this model will be avoided. City of Literature, UNESCO, City of Literature, the city of Kozhikode has been proposed. Kozhikode, that is the pronunciation. Keralites would be able to pronounce even better than I have done right now. So they have proposed, Kerala Institute of Local Administration has proposed Kozhikode to be the city of literature, which is designated by UNESCO. See, UNESCO designates various cities at cities which have some speciality. For example, city of gastronomy, tell me which is the city? City of music, we have studied quite a few cities, no? Ahmedabad, Hyderabad. City of film, right? Quite a few cities designed by India. In India, a city designated as creative city of literature must have sufficient number of institutions taking care of high level of its literary life and promoting literature. So that city must contain those old texts preserved well, kept well, promoted amongst the people, right? Branding Kozhikode get a global reach. Absolutely. The city is UNESCO's United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, right? So trying to preserve the educational, scientific and cultural heritage of the country. Questions? Plus 100. Thank you. Hima says, sir, is there any nexus between these coal companies just like cement cartel companies of India? These are state-owned companies. What nexus will they have? Nexus is when the companies want to earn something. What is the incentive for the state-owned companies? Do they get more salaries? Do they get incentives? These kind of nexus, all the companies are led by Coal India Limited, CIL, and then under CIL are various companies, right? Various coal. I think you are speaking of coal mines, no? So I think there's 7-8 of these state-owned companies under CIL, right? Regional basis. So there's a CCL, Central Coalfields Limited, then Singareni Coalfields Limited, Eastern Coalfields Limited, all of them at different places where the coal mines are located so that they could administer the local area coal production. So what is the incentive? Just that they are ill managed, right? There was also in coal production, there was also an order passed by the government that if the captive coal mines are not being able to utilize the complete coal that is available there, if the captive industry is not able to utilize, 50% of the resources will get diverted, can get diverted for other work as well, right? For passing on to other coal industries, right? Coda, yes, best movie. Got the award for King Richard, true. Yeah, he acted as, not he, the movie Father of Venus and Serena Williams, absolutely. But I have not seen the movie, I just read that part. Yes, Dune. I have not seen any of these movies. Music, Varanasi. Gastronomy, Hyderabad. Good. Folk art, Jaipur. Okay. Music, Chennai. Thank you. Okay, good list. So, match the following. We've already done. Editorials for today. The first editorial that we discuss is Vasudhaiv Kutumb, food response. All right. So India has spoken of Vasudhaiv Kutumb all the time. The Prime Minister goes to United Nations General Assembly, speaks of the world being India's home. Vasud means home, ghar, right? So India's food response as Vasudhaiv Kutumb. See, more than 50% people in Afghanistan are food deprived. and the global population which is going through extreme hunger, and the population which is going through food crisis that has only increased with time. So the chronic hunger, imagine chronic hunger means people being subjected to less food every day, chronic, not acute. 650 million people go through chronic hunger around the whole world, around 1/10 of the whole world population, right? And if you look at starvation, the people who are starving because not availability, there's less availability of food, there's no availability of food, it is 270 million. 270 million, this comes to 27 crore people, 27 crore people. And when this is 27 crore, this has only increased before pandemic. This is post pandemic. Before pandemic, this was around 160 crore, 160 million, 16 crore people, and this has only increased. The numbers that I'm speaking of, the starvation numbers and the people who are in chronic hunger, 650 million, this has increased. 2015, when we started Sustainable Development Goals, if you read the SDG 1 and 2, they are about removing extreme hunger and poverty, abject poverty from the face of earth. But then where are we? We are back to where even before where we were in 2015, all because of COVID pandemic. Rising inequalities, lesser levels of employment, more forced migration, more wars, distress, Afghanistan distress happening in Kazakhstan, distress happening in African nations, distress happening in Ukraine and Russia. Because of this, people have had lesser stock, but India has provided food around the whole world. 2020 record production, 300 million tons of food grains, 20 million ton plus exported, rice and wheat only, right? 100 plus million tons of preservation in buffer stock itself. So this is the great feat by India, a country just 50 years back. We were importing, we were not food sufficient, we were importing food during the times of war. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Jawan to help at the borders, 1965, slogan given by our second Prime Minister of the country, and Jai Kisan, so that we could cultivate more. But that time, the Jawans were dying at the border and the farmers were not being able to produce enough, 60 years back. And look at the situation when India became food sufficient and now we are food exporters. What a feat for the country. This is a very rewarding thing for a country, and we can emulate these kind of exercises with other countries. Sri Lanka is the best example. Sri Lanka is exporting entities like rubber to have rice given to it from China. Can India not give this technology, a nation nearer to us? Absolutely. And in fact, we can also pass on the lessons. Be integrated water technology, right? Use less water intensive crops, right? Not only that, use less chemical fertilizers, right? Input should be only proportional. How to market, all this India can help. So try to relate it to the other articles also that we covered. This is an expertise for India, right? So pandemic shocks, conflict, inequality, chronic hunger, all of this only made the world move towards starvation, and this is not a good state of affairs. It is very rare that I leave any food on my plate left, right? I eat everything that is offered, even to the level of overeating, right? And India has helped through a very good institutional mechanism, National Food Security Act. देखो दोस्तों, ये क्वेश्चन आया था, व्हाट आर द कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ नेशनल फूड सिक्योरिटी एक्ट, राइस एट व्हाट रेट, यही लिखना था इस पे, राइस एट व्हाट रेट, व्हीट एट व्हाट रेट, पल्सेस एंड अदर एंटिटीज, केरोसिन और शुगर एट व्हाट रेट टू बी गिवन, एंड व्हाट आर द people who are to be served. So around 90%, 75% of the whole population to be served. In rural areas, number of people are different. In urban areas, number of people are different, right? And then overall there will be subsidized rate for all the food crops and all the crops being given through National Food Security Act. But then there will be targeted PDS, targeted public distribution system, where majority of the population would be targeted and certain entity will be given at a very, very subsidized cost, 1 rupee, 2 rupee, that would be the amount fixed, but only percentage of food, not any number of kilos, only proportional to the size, to the family. So this was targeted PDS. This is a part of National Food Security Act. Along with that, midday meal scheme converted to Poshan, it's called as Poshan now, ICDS schemes. All of these schemes included together have caused India's food security, not nutrition security, food security. PM Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, another extension it received right now. So 80 crore people receiving free food, right? 5 kilo per member per family, right? So World Food Program in association with India provided the food to Afghanistan on free of cost, goodwill, right? 50 metric tons. Now World Food Program won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2020 because of things like this, and India has also won accolades in international arena because of its welfare programs for countries abroad. All right, so this is it. Yes, Vasud Earth, Kutum Home. Oh, did I mention something else? Vasud is Earth, absolutely. Okay. Pooja says her GS times will clash. Okay, I understand, Pooja. You may watch it offline if you feel like, if you must. Okay. You should look it up. If you have confusion, you should look it up. I also don't remember this part. Look it up. Okay, the second update is on strikes becoming less successful in the country. Why strikes are less successful? See, the editorial is a very small one. It simply says that economic gains have happened and GDP has only risen, but because of a couple of issues like pandemic, like unequal distribution in the country, structural inequalities, they have only risen, right? Working class participation, it needs a stronger growth. I received a comment in the comment section yesterday, and one of the students mentioned an important thing about, they gave an elaborate explanation on the same thing, the reason why public sector bank officers are graded. So they said there are 7 scales. I just copied the comment down here. 7 scales, and out of the 7 scales, the first three scales in the category, they can participate in strikes, right? So they start with the level of the first scale. Yes, first scale is assistant manager, and then is the manager, and the third is senior manager. And above this, scale 4, scale 5, scale 6, scale 7, they are a part of the upper management. They cannot participate in strikes, but these 3 people can definitely take part in strikes. But then these are the people who have got the signing authority. Clerks don't have signing authority. So these people are the ones which are overburdened with work because they have more responsibility, and eventually you see how the unions get broken, right? Because there's a distinguishing factor, signing authorities are different, right? And then there's an upper management, people want to get promoted, right? So many issues which make the whole strikes get fragmented, right? And primarily the right demand right now is reduction in prices of fuel, reduction in prices of important commodities, food, etc., all those things. So vague demands largely around the fact that people want lesser privatization in government banks. State budget. This editorial speaks of many states releasing their state budget, and they are defaulting at many grounds. State budget defaulting at many grounds. Let me show this to you. The editorial talks about quite a few things. See, Maharashtra, UP, all of them saying we want to be the first state becoming $1 trillion economy. Oh God, I wish I could show you this. Whew. All right, the editorial speaks of 5-6 important things. Amongst them is one, that the states are not able to reduce the fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit of the center it has reduced from 6.9% to 6.4%. The states are not able to reduce this. This is one point that they have mentioned. The second point that they mention is the fact that they are not being able to curtail the spendings. The spendings are too high. एक तो deficit they are not able to curtail, the spendings proportionally are high, and along with that the incoming finances are low. So the expenditure is high, amdani atanni kharcha rupaya, amdani the income is lower. So they have not diversified and they are dependent on the central government. If the state is dependent, imagine what would happen to municipal corporation and the smaller agencies, right? So largely decimal state of affairs in the state. There are a couple of more points. I would like you to go here and click on the link to understand what these are. Right, debt to GDP ratio for the states, they are only increasing because the fiscal deficit is increasing, the loans are increasing, the incoming money is not high. So largely around the fundamentals of the various states. All right, these are the issues here. All right, moving to the last segment, and before that, if you like this initiative, shower some love through likes, comments and shares. Thank you very much. Moving to the last segment, that is on PETA. Anybody? Full form please, PETA. Now these are animal driven carts, bullock carts, horse driven carts, bulls, oxes driving these carts, and see, the owner is not able to purchase a vehicle because they don't have finances, and they have animal driven carts. They're not even able to sufficiently feed the animal. It is not even good for an economy where a slow moving cart is competing with the fast moving service providers. So this is why PETA, considering the welfare of animals, they have provided finances to the cart owners and said you can purchase e-rickshaws. Purchase e-rickshaws. Don't purchase from those brands which are Chinese in origin. Otherwise, refer snapshot 1, update 1. You will find what happens to the electric vehicles. So they have been given electric vehicles to transport their entities. 60,000 rupees given to each person to be able to purchase this. And animals, where do they go? They go for what they love most. Chara khayenge, right? So animals, PETA has tried to conserve and preserve them. Dedicated sanctuary in UP and Maharashtra where they can spend the rest of their lives. So this is a very good treatment to animals, right? Animal driven cards. That's it. Today's feature news. People for the ethical treatment of animals. Good enough. Good. Thank you. Ashish, Tiyasha, Hima, Netra. Appreciate this. All right. Please clarify the doubts that you have. If you have some, I would like to clarify this. If you have some, otherwise amongst yourself, please do clarify on this issue of the city of gastronomy on craft folk. Whatever is the question, I didn't read it well enough. We'll move to the other video on the feature news for today. Thank you for participation. If you like this initiative, shower some love and do prepare notes. Thank you. Good evening.